experience, ladies and gentlemen?
I'm good.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Numbers in the red?
Number is in the red. My little joint is popping.
Okay.
So you ready? You ready, Lynn? Are you? Are you waiting for that, Jay, so that we can begin our latest installment of the Micheaux mission that we've spent these many years discussing black films, the works of Oscar Micheaux and Gina Bythewood, who will discuss Spike Lee, Ava DuVernay, the film work of Sidney Poitier, Cicely Tyson, Whoopi Goldberg, Denzel Washington, Will Smith, and then tonight, Max, the son of Goofy. Part of a long and storied tradition of black film. Are you ready, Lynn? Are you ready to officially begin? Are you ready for me to begin the program? As is our tradition to begin. It's your film. So I'm going to start the episode. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Is the word go?
The word is go.
Are weapons hot?
They're all hot.
Show mission, 2 men, 1 podcast, every black film ever made. My name is Vincent Williams, and I am joined as always by my partner.
Hey, what's up? Holla at your boy. This is Len, aka the Bat Tribble.
And on this latest stop on the mission, we will spend time with a scrappy underdog of a film when we talk about Disney's animated features. A film that has a story where it struggled to find an audience and over the years has become a bit of a classic among millennials, and more specifically, black millennials. And it has been called, and I quote, the blackest Disney film ever made. No, we're not doing the Princess and the Frog, nor are we doing the Proud Family film, nor are we even doing the Lion King. Some might ask, well, are you doing Song of the South? And to you, I say thee nay. No, tonight we're going to spend time with Lynn Webb's choice, The Goofy Movie from 1995. But before we talk about this cobblestone of black culture, if you will, this is the stone that the builder refused, Lynn. It was too black and it was too strong. But before we discuss Martin Luther King Boulevard at midnight black, Lynn, do we have some business?
Yes, we do. We are streaming live on Facebook in our Micheaux Mission Facebook group, as well as on YouTube/Micheaux Mission, where I see everybody piping in as we speak, saying hellos and huzzahs, and Deborah Battle is openly questioning, still trying to see how this is a black film.
Hey, Lynn, question. If you begin a podcast, legally, can people take the podcast from us? Like, how does that work? I don't think we have a board of directors anyway. We can't get fired from our own podcast, can we?
No, we cannot get fired.
Right. Okay.
From our own podcast. Fortunately. But yes, to answer your question, Vince, we like to get into all of the feedback that we get from each and every one of you who writes us at micheauxmission@gmail.com. where we heard from Azia Taylor in regards to our review last week of One False Move.
Hey, Azia.
She says, I loved this film and really enjoyed your thought-provoking review. Two things. First, the film was truly disturbing, but I quickly got caught up in the characters. Since the subplot of racism is so pervasive, I found myself hoping the killers got away. Second, the comfortable nature of Fantasia with Pluto suggests they had a more than friendly relationship. She's trying to make Pluto jealous. Also, you never talked about how Cinda and Billy Bob's marriage between 1990 and 1992. Great job.
Yeah, we didn't mention. I actually forgot to mention it. I thought it would come up talking about the chemistry between the two of them, which I actually thought read volatile.
But the chemistry between them.
But yeah, between them, as I thought that they were so true to the acting that I never got the sense that she really was comfortable with him.
Yeah, me neither. I agree. I thought that, and maybe that is byproduct of the comfortableness that they felt with one another, because he did have to be pretty belligerent with her.
Yeah,
that film. So I guess in order for that to come off, there had to be some kind of like comfort level between them. So it is that. I think they broke up, and it wasn't long after that Billy Bob married for a short time Angelina Jolie.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
I'd be curious whether or not Angelina Jolie came in between them, as she would do years later with Brad Pitt.
One can only guess.
Yes, one can only guess. Speaking of, you brought her up earlier, black directors who we celebrate on our show. There is a black director who is rightfully being lauded for her work for the Netflix release, The Old Guard.
Yes.
Gina Prince Bythewood, who directed Charlize Theron and Kiki Lane, among others, in the adaptation of Greg Rucka's graphic novel, and it's streaming now on Netflix. Vince, you saw this film, right?
Oh yeah, it was amazing. Like, it was actually amazing. It's one of the best action films I've seen in a long time. And it had a lot of intelligence. I think the conceit is one that comes across really well on the screen. And I was curious about her. For people who aren't familiar with the graphic novel, it's about a group of immortals.
Mm-hmm.
But these are immortals who have lived every day.
Right.
And they are tired. They are tired, and they are haunted. And Charlize Theron.
Not only are they tired with living every day, but they're tired with living with the human race.
Right.
They've tired of the human race and what has become of it.
Yeah, and that comes across really, really well. I think I've seen some interviews with Gina Prince Bythewood where people, or rather reviews, where people have commented that people shouldn't be that surprised by how well she captures the physicality of the fighting, because of her own background as an athlete, and of course, the legendary Love and Basketball,
right?
And the scenes that and it also shouldn't come as a surprise that she really does well with the emotional beats as well. The acting, the action. Chiwetel Ejiofor has a great role. Looks like he'll have a larger role going forward. Just a great film.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Great film. Yeah,
a lot of fun, and it was actually. I mean, if you are a fan of Charlize Theron's filmography, you've seen her in more than a few action movies over the last few years. She was in Mad Max: Fury Road. She was very stellar in a slept-on film from 2017, Atomic Blonde. So she definitely has the action chops. But if you're only familiar with Kiki Lane from If Beale Street Could Talk, then my oh my, meet Miss Kiki Lane.
How
Because
about that?
she is no joke in this movie. She carries through the emotional beats as well as the action. Um, she is pretty much the center of the film. She's kind of like our intro into this world of these immortals. She's our window into that world. And she is absolutely mesmerizing in this film. You can't take your eyes off of her. And I am so happy for her success to be coming out the box and to have two projects where she is able to really show her full range so adroitly.
Yeah, yeah, and it seems like they're setting up at least a sequel,
Most certainly.
if not a series. And so, let's hear it for franchise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I'm with it. I'm definitely with it. And lockdown Charlize, lockdown Kiki, lockdown Gina, and I will be there, Netflix, for as long as you keep these films rolling. So I'm very happy about that. The Old Guard. Check that out, ladies and gentlemen, if you will. Let's see what else has been happening. People have been hitting us up in the Facebook group about a lot of things that have been happening, Vince. I don't know if you are familiar with these roundtables, these hashtag represent roundtable series of conversations that Variety is doing. And they recently held one that featured Jay Farrow, Derek Luke, Chris Chalk, Algie Smith, and Aldous Hodge speaking out on the realities of racism in Hollywood.
Yeah. I mean, just familiar. I saw the link.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the link is on our Facebook group where you can check it out, ladies and gentlemen. It's actually a very the video of it is cool. It's a good read because it spells out some of the viewpoints and favorite points of their chat that they have. Aldous Hodge, who can recently be seen on City on the Hill, which is a slept on series. I believe it's on Showtime. He said, he hopes that this movement is different for us in the Black community, not to leave out Black women, men, LGBTQ, our whole community, everybody who's Black. This is what we know. This is usual for us, speaking about systemic racism in Hollywood. We've been talking about this for a while. I think the shift that may have happened with Mr. Floyd and watching his murder was that we had to sit home and sit with it. We had to watch it, and there is no discernible argument that you can make about what has happened. It's not just our conversation anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a good conversation, and I invite you all to go check that out. Like I said, the link is in our Facebook group. It's really cool, and it's good to see those, to get that perspective, such a wide range of ages of Black men and how.
I was going to say that it's actually a nice sampling of people at different points in their careers.
Yeah, so I like that. That's pretty dope. Speaking about somebody who's on the other end of his career in Hollywood and maybe writing his own ticket out. Have you heard about this back and forth that's been going on through Twitter between Soledad O'Brien and Isaiah Washington?
Does it really count as a back and forth if one person is insignificant and crazy? Like, could I have a back and forth with a pigeon?
For those who are not aware, there's been a bit of a back and forth between Soledad O'Brien, who is a reporter. She's she's reported for MSNBC, for CNN, among others. I'm not exactly, I think she's with CBS right now. I'm not exactly 100% sure where she lays her hat at these days. But Isaiah Washington, I was unaware of this. Recently, kind of like has come out as a staunch Trump supporter.
Oh yeah, he's
And
been like that for at least a year.
and I wasn't
Yeah.
aware of this. He actually was at a Black Leadership Summit. Um,
Lynn, why would
yes,
you have been aware of that?
you're right, Vince.
That's what I'm saying. When you said a back and forth in the debate, what did they give him the day off from Lowe's?
Oh, oh, Vince. Oh, Vince. I don't think that's fair in this back and forth because what happened is Isaiah Washington posted a picture of himself with a couple of other conservative blacks who were at this Black Leadership Summit in Washington D.C. and all of them staunch um, Donald Trump supporters. And
Sure.
Soledad O'Brien, dare to, response, laugh out loud, LOL, to his picture. And
Yes.
that began this little back and forth between the two of them. And somewhere along the line, Isaiah Washington actually tweeted, and I want to find the exact tweet because I misquote him. He said, someone jumped into their conversation and mentioned how Isaiah Washington had been mad with the Black community since the Obama diss and being kicked off of Grey's Anatomy by a Black woman.
Yeah.
He credits Trump with initiatives that Obama started. He's what Harriet Tubman warned us about. He thinks he's free, but he kissed the same massa that would whip him if he could. To which Isaiah Washington retorted, "What the F? I'm doing what Harriet Tubman did and better. Sit down, you sound ignorant, hashtag first step back."
Yes. So today is the 21st.
The 21st of July.
Hopefully by this time next week, Donald Trump hasn't released masked federal agents in our city of Philadelphia, and they're not grabbing people off the street.
Right.
So, also, I've not seen my friend in person in how long, Lynn? How long has it been, Lynn?
Wow, it's been almost over 3 months.
Yeah, 3 months. So like the cities are on fire. We're actually in the middle of a plague, and he's releasing the secret police in cities.
Mm-hmm.
This is where we are.
This is where we are.
And if you are Black and you don't think this doesn't affect you disproportionately than other people, then I can't even like we're not even in the same sphere.
Exactly.
So Isaiah Washington just again, like you said, it was a back and forth. I don't even know how you go back and forth with somebody like that. Like we're actually living in an episode of Black Mirror.
Right. It seems like that. It seems like that, and I don't understand what the. I don't know. The thing I one time really enjoyed that man's work. It's been a while since I've seen him work, but now I know.
Hey man, I think he's a great actor. I think he sabotaged his own damn career, and I think he's lost his mind.
Yeah, apparently.
But you know what you gonna do? I just ordered a book about Miles Davis earlier today.
Did you really?
About the influence of Kinda Blue. Like not 3 hours ago, I ordered a book about the influence of Miles Davis.
Nice.
Oftentimes, great artists are reprehensible people.
Very good. Hey, speaking of, not speaking of, just moving on. There is on Turner Classic Movies, and shameless plug, I'll be honest. Turner Classic Movies right now, on demand, you can see from 1964, Nothing But a Man, starring Isaac Dixon and the jazz singer Abby Lincoln.
That's right.
And I invite you all. We reviewed this film quite some time ago here on The Mission. You can check the archives for our review. If you have not seen this film from 1964, I invite you to check out this film. This is a unapologetic look at systemic racism in the 1960s and its debilitating effect not only on the black populace, but even more so on a black man, and how disheartened it is for him, and what it how it affects his life and his relationships with the people in it. It is a unbracing, very realistic time capsule of that time. I know I used that word before, but I actually introduced this film to my friend just the other day, and made her sit down and watch it. And she couldn't believe how realistic the film was, how unfortunately timeless its message was, and how poignant, dramatic, and yet in some way still slightly uplifting this film is. So I invite you all, if you haven't checked out Nothing But a Man, go watch that film.
I will say this about Nothing But a Man, as this is episode 214. I think it is fair to say that you and I might quibble about our top five, like what we think is the best movie that you and I have reviewed. But I think it is fair to say that Nothing Like a Man is easily in both of our top five.
Yep.
Easily.
Yep.
Like I'm pretty sure it's in my top three.
Yeah. It is.
This is a magnificent film.
It is. Aaron Fry actually agrees. He watched it this past weekend. Great film. So yeah, check that out. Nothing But a Man is streaming on Netflix right now. I mean, not Netflix. Turner Classic Movies. Movies. So go check that out. All right. I wanted to make sure to put that out there, put that bug in everybody's ear, because it is a movie that's been slept on.
Yeah.
And worth being found. All right. And let's see. There was one last story that I just wanted to bring to your attention. Let me see. This is a story from blackenterprise.com. Black Hollywood needs to hire black agents and lawyers before crying about inequality.
I saw that.
Hollywood lawyer Jaya Thomas was excited, as were hordes of fans, when Black Panther hit the big screen. After all, it was a movie of totally black talent. Thomas didn't realize at the time that the blackness stopped at the talent. The actors were almost entirely represented by white teams. A few weeks after the film's release, Thomas said, I spent some time researching the names of the attorneys, agents, managers, and publicists who represent the cast. Chadwick Boseman's lawyer, white. Michael B. Jordan's publicist, white. The thrill of watching such breathtaking production faded against the irony of black actors discussing Wakanda Forever with almost all white teams. Ooh. And then the story goes on to spell out his condemnation a little bit against Black Hollywood and some of the more prominent figures, and the shameful lack of color in their representation.
I mean, I think this is a story that you hear in many different venues. I know, as we all know, I'm not a sports guy, but one of the stories that I sort of I've always been aware of is the lack of black representation in sports. Mm-hmm. You know, mm-hmm. Sports agents. You know, certainly you look on ESPN and you look on the channels, and the black journalists,
right,
and everyone, and I think that's true in Hollywood as well. It's funny, one of the stories that someone posted in the group about the actress Angelica, and I apologize if I mispronounce her name, Washington,
Mm-hmm.
the little sister who's on Stargirl now.
Yes.
She posted a story about having a stunt woman who was in blackface.
Ooh.
And you and I have mentioned that a couple of times. I think with Jim Brown specifically, because I think Jim Brown is who broke the color line with stuntmen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember you. I think you told me that he had a black stuntman. But look. This is a whole industry. This is a whole industry, and it's like, yeah, it's good to be a star. It's good to be an actor. It's good to be a director. But there are lots and lots and lots of jobs,
Yep.
and unfortunately, we are locked out of those jobs, and it's hard to get into those jobs. Did you and I talk about this stuntman issue? Like, I had a conversation with somebody about the whole stuntman industry, and they said
Mm-hmm.
apparently you need to have a sponsor to get
Yeah.
into
To get into the union.
the union. You need a sponsor, but if the whole union is white, it's difficult to find a sponsor. So that, the argument that was made about the actress on Stargirl is that basically there were no black female stunt people.
Mm.
So therefore, we got to put blackface on the stunt woman to be your stunt person. There's been a lot of conversation this week about voice actors
Yeah.
and white voice actors playing black characters, and you can almost play a drinking game as
Mm-hmm.
you read over the past 2 months, and you see the word systemic.
Yeah.
This is systemic
Yep.
from the bottom to the top. So that, I read that article and I was like, ooh, ooh. But
Mm-hmm.
look, it is what it is. It is. Look, this is the situation.
That's why it's very. I find it is such a fantastic story when you the more you learn about LeBron James. I mean, like LeBron James,
Right.
like he may go down as one of the greatest black men ever just by virtue of the way that he lived his life. So if you read the story of LeBron James, a person who came to the NBA out of high school, ladies and gentlemen, this is a person that did not go to college. He came to the NBA out of high school, and when he came out of high school, he already came out with the expectation that he would be as great, if not greater, than Michael Jordan. And so far in his, I think, 16-year career, there is a worthy argument of whether or not he has passed Jordan or not. Your opinion may vary, but nobody will say it's not an argument to be had. But in doing so, in coming out of high school, talking about leave no man behind, he has brought along with him his childhood friends Maverick Carter, Randy Mims, and even more importantly, Rich Paul, who not only have been his friends, not only have been his confidants in all of his business affairs, but have also been his business partners in all of the subsequent enterprises that he has started, and has they, especially Rich Paul, have taken on even more demands outside of the sphere of LeBron James, as they have taken the opportunity presented by being with him as an opportunity to make their name and make their place in the world be known. And I think that if that is a model that you see being followed by more and more sports stars are following that same model. And I think also that will soon become a model that you will see reciprocate and reproduce itself in the up and coming players in Hollywood.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. My wife just reminded me, and we've mentioned this before, about the lack of black hairdressers. and black makeup people.
Yep.
And you know, to your point, you see more and more conversation about that. You hear more and more actresses in particular, who have that in their contract now. That I want somebody black to do my hair. I saw a conversation between, I think it may have been the women on the Black Lady sketch show. Like I'm almost positive Gabrielle Dennis was part of the conversation, where they were talking about how they had to do their hair before they came to set.
Right.
Because oftentimes, and by oftentimes, most of the time, there would be people there doing their hair who don't know how to do black hair.
Yeah.
You know, there was a bit of a controversy this week, I think, with Annie, the great photographer Annie Leibovitz, and it just slipped my mind who she was photographing, but they were talking about the lighting and how the lighting was dull, and this is something else you hear about, you know, photographers at these magazines and who sets up the light and all of this stuff. Because again, this is an entire industry.
Yep. Well, I think it's we've said this before. As more and more projects are being produced and being successful, such as Insecure, Atlanta, Dear White People, She's Gotta Have It, you know, Black Panther, If Beale Street Could Talk, all of these films become more and more successful and prominent out there, and you look in the credits and you see people of color more represented there. I think it will start to play its way forward. You know.
Well, hopefully. It was Simone Biles. By the way.
Okay.
Annie
Yes.
Leibovitz would, you know, there were some questions about the way that Simone Biles was lit. But again, this wasn't the case in this particular instance. This is a conversation, and you and I have it. You and I have it all the time. Where you know, we've joked that sometimes when you watch a film, you know how good it is by looking at brothers' haircuts.
That's right.
Because it's like if the studio cares enough to get a barber, then that reflects other parts of the project.
That's right.
But then it looks like, you know, they sent the brothers there to the hair cuttery, and it's like, oh boy. Like they wet the hair and did a scissor cut, and it's like, oh boy.
or more worse. The most egregious thing is when you can tell the reshoots because the haircut is different. And they don't know, they don't care.
They just don't care.
But we see it. We see it. Dude, I remember famously watching an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, right? And Mekhi Phifer was on the episode. And for 20 minutes of the episode, he's got like darn near like a nice close cut, you know, fade, right? And then it cut to one scene, like he turned the corner, and all of a sudden he got like this baby afro. And then it cut back, and he's back. You know, it was just a reshoot real quick. But they didn't think, like, yo, okay, he looks the same. It's the same brother. I mean, it's got to be the same. It's got to be the same. They don't see that. You don't see that.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me that even the same guy can't just look alike? Like, you told me not to say they all look alike.
But it's the same guy. Mr. Phifer? Yes. See? Same guy.
Same guy.
Roll him.
It's like every politician in Washington this week is having a quiz trying to figure out the difference between Elijah Cummings and John Lewis.
Oh, man. Wow. Nice segue, Vince. Nice segue. Thank you, my friend. We lost two giants.
The
civil rights movement, ladies and gentlemen. We lost the Reverend Dr. Cordy Tyndall, C.T. Vivian.
Vivian.
And the Honorable John Lewis. Both of them passed on July 17th of 2020.
Now, I know you met John Lewis. Was John Lewis actually a Tribble?
No, no,
Oh,
no. He was in and out.
okay, okay.
He was in and out. There was not a whole lot of getting to John Lewis
No, not a whole
at
lot.
Amalgam. He was like,
At
"Hello,
Amalgam.
Amalgam. Goodbye,
Goodbye,
Amalgam."
Amalgam. But yeah, they'll be missed. Two giants.
Two giants, man. Most certainly. I know I joined the world that we're all on Ruth Bader Ginsburg watch right now.
Oh Lord, have mercy. Oh Lord. Yes, yes. Did I mention the secret police that our president has said out loud in front of people that he's going to drop in the city? Did I mention that?
Yeah.
Like when you say to the president, "Hey, there are unmarked vans grabbing people," and he says, "Yeah, I know, I ordered it. This is where we are."
This is where we are, ladies and gentlemen. We have come to that point of the show where we move on to our review of a black film.
I wasn't even going to say anything. Don't think I didn't notice. You just kept pulling out stories. I was like, yeah, let's see how long Lynn's going to do this. Like, why is he talking about Isaiah Washington? Like, people in Isaiah Washington's house don't talk about Isaiah Washington.
There were stories to talk about.
Yes.
I wanted to cover the diaspora of black entertainment.
Right. Because we keep it real black here.
Exactly. Speaking of
how
which,
black? Real black.
Speaking of which, Vince, have you seen? Have you seen that a new black film debuted on Netflix, Fatal Affair, starring Nia Long and Omar Epps?
I saw that it premiered. I've not watched it.
Oh, you haven't, Vince?
I haven't.
Oh.
I have not. Did you watch it? I know Nia Long is your girl.
Nia Long is my girl. And I did start the film. I did not finish the film.
Did not finish the film.
Did not finish. And perhaps I will someday.
Perhaps. One never knows what the day will bring.
Right.
Yeah. So any other stories, Lynn? Are you ready to
So
you ready? You ready to?
Thank you, each and every one of you chiming in the Facebook group. And on YouTube.
Because I've been waiting for this all day. Lynn, I'm gonna hold it up to the camera. I'm gonna hold up. Everybody see my notes. See it's page after page of notes. Look at that. Film every film. It's a page, maybe a little bit over a page. Goofy movie. See, it's like half a page. I just put the pen down. I said, well, I'm gonna let Lynn walk me through it.
Okay. Did you notice my Black Panther shirt?
I did. Wakanda forever, brother.
Yes.
Wakanda forever.
Because I am a black man.
Yes. Oh, yeah. We keep it real black here. How black? Real black. You ready to keep it black?
Well,
we'd be like Calvin Lockhart and Cotton Comes to Harlem. Am I black enough for you, baby?
Well, I guess we can't put this off any longer. It is time for us to get to our review of 1995's A Goofy Movie.
Yeah.
At this point, we will be plugging in the trailer.
Plugging in the trailer for the Goofy Movie. Maybe Power Line's in the trailer, so that might help.
Oh, if only.
If only.
That were true, because that might support my argument.
Right. So you ready? You ready? You ready? I'm ready whenever you are, Lynn. I'm like I said, I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting
Hey,
for.
Robert Monroe says he's wearing the same Black Panther shirt as I.
Look at that. Y'all are Wakandian brothers.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. I wonder if we could get him to join the show and we could talk about the origin of this Black
No, my friend. The mic is yours. I'm going to have a very brief introduction, and then I'm going to hand it right on over to you.
All right, let's go, Vince.
All right. 1995's a Goofy movie. Though Goofy always means well, his amiable cluelessness and klutzy pratfalls regularly embarrass his awkward adolescent son, Max. When Max's lighthearted pranks on his high school principal finally get his longtime crush, Roxanne, to notice him, he asks her out on a date. Max's trouble at school, however, convinces Goofy that he and the boy need to bond over a cross-country fishing trip like the one he took when he was Max's age, which throws a kink in his son's plans to impress Roxanne. Also, Tevin Campbell is Powerline. The Goofy movie from 1995 was the choice of Lynn Webb. Lynn,
Yes.
what do you have to say about the Goofy movie? Oh yeah, clear your throat. Notice you don't have no pretzels with you this week.
A Goofy movie is a Disney film starring Goofy, who is a Disney character who gets into scrapes and funny, wacky, slapstick misadventures, and has been doing so since the 1930s when he was created. Okay? And while he is not necessarily a dog, his visage does resemble that of a dog, an anthropomorphic dog who walks on his hind legs. Okay, he has come to not be seen wholly as a dog because in the world of Disney there is a character who not only looks like a dog but exhibits all of the characteristics of a dog, and that is Pluto, who is in fact Mickey Mouse's pet dog.
Okay.
So with that being said, it is said that then Goofy must be something else besides a dog, because dogs in these universes are pets. As Pluto has been seen to run around with an assortment of other pet dogs in the Mickey Mouse Disney universe. So Goofy must not be a dog. So the question begs, what is Goofy? And it has been it has been long theorized that Goofy may in fact be a black person.
Okay.
Now, depending on what side of the Mason-Dixon line you fall on, he may represent a black person for different reasons.
Okay.
If you are a person who is staunched in, the ways of the South and their depiction of black people, especially, mind you, he was a product of his time, being created back in the uh, 30s and 40s. Goofy, who was first and foremost a slapstick character, who was shown to be of, you know, middling intelligence at best, who was sometimes shown to be a little laconic in his walk and in his speech and in his mastery of the vocabulary. You might surmise that he is obviously, they are depicting a black person when they do Goofy.
Okay.
If you are of northern descent and maybe a little bit more liberal in your thinking, you might think that Goofy is in fact a depiction of a black person because he is the person in the Disney sphere who seems to always have some type of have a job that is pretty much a blue collar job, if you will. He is one who was always seen as not trying to have get rich schemes, but always, not the most affluent of the Disney characters. And more to the point, especially once it became a feature of these Disney characters to have young counterparts, such as Mickey Mouse had his nephews, Mortimer and some other jive-looking mouse, and Donald had famously his nephews, Huey, Dewey, and Louie. Goofy was given a son. Max is his name. He was given a son as his heretofore kind of like youthful sidekick. And he was given a son to raise on his own as a single father, raising him in his image, as many proud black men have done over the years. Oh, yes, Hollywood does not always celebrate the staunchness of the single black father, but perhaps in more subtle ways, Disney has, with the depictions of Goofy and his son Max. And it would live on to be celebrated in the heralded TV show Goof Troop.
Goof Troop.
Debuted in the late 80s and the 90s as an after-school show that would go on to wide acclaim in households across America and would spawn a feature-length movie, not spin-off, but feature-length movie presentation of that world in a Goofy movie.
All right, here we
Presenting
go.
for you an exploration of the relationship between Goofy, his proud father,
Proud black father,
and his son Max, his young, budding teenager son with raging hormones and a thirst to become his own man, away from the image of his father. So much so that the film opens up with Max's nightmare of growing into his father following not only in his image, you know, spiritually as well as physically, and Max being horrified by that idea. And off we go in this film, which explores Max's attempts to run away from that image, and his father's attempts to hold on to his young son, who he feels may be following it down a wayward path of thuggery by impersonating the rock star Powerline at the school auditorium on the last day of school before they break for their summer sojourn. Thus, we have a Goofy movie. This world populated by also quasi-dog-looking individuals who represent the race of this segment of the Disney sphere. And one could argue that yes, despite most of these characters being voiced by white actors, and most of them sporting the accoutrement of the stereotypical white teenager of the 1990s, one could argue that they still are in fact exhibiting the behaviors of some black teenagers of that time, despite their hue as they are colored on the screen.
Okay, all right.
And I was prepared to walk into this episode of the Micheaux Mission arguing that very point as I watched the film. Until I reached the end of the film and the heretofore often mentioned but rarely seen character of Powerline comes across the screen. Powerline, who is a rock star, clearly drawn in the image of Bobby Brown, who was widely popular at the time and who was the first sort voice actor to voice Powerline for this film. Powerline, who is voiced by a young Tevin Campbell, a black youth. Powerline, who in his depiction on the animated stage of this film is also depicted as a quasi dog-looking / human, but is distinctly colored in the hue of a black person.
Yes.
Therefore, setting the line of demarcation of what is considered a black person in this side of the Disney sphere and just a person in this side of the Disney sphere. So, a Goofy movie, which I liked. I enjoyed this film. There is nothing new to it. It's a story as old as time of father and son who go on a road trip and discover what they have in common and how much they like about one another, at the same time exploring what they don't like and have to learn to accept about one another in the face of all the misadventures that they face, in the face of the other image of father-son relationship that we see in this film, that it's played out by Goofy's usual, foil in his film, but in this one, he's more of kind of like just the bad neighbor, the crazy neighbor next door, Peg Leg Pete, and his son PJ. It's a funny film. It's not. It's got some music in it. It's not a whole lot of music. It's like about 3 songs. They're all cute, little infectious. You know, you'll find yourself humming a couple of them when the film is over. The comedy is good. If you're a fan of Goofy, you know what you're getting. The animation is well done. Certainly a cut above the TV animation, maybe just a cut below, you know, classic Disney animation of the time, which would have been around the times of, you know, A Little Mermaid, Lion King, and films of that ilk. It's a cute film. It's a good film. It's not a black film.
Right.
It's not a black film whatsoever, and I apologize.
Well, all jokes aside, I think the argument about the Goofy movie being a black film, I think a lot of this is an age thing. Like, I think this is very much a black millennial argument about this film, most famously made on the website, Black Nerd Problems, which famously posted a story, I think, a couple of years ago. I'm gonna see if there's a year on here. I don't see the year, but it's fairly recent because it said 20. Well, I guess it was this year. 25 years ago, a Goofy movie became the blackest, most underrated nerd classic of all time. Is the name of the article. And the argument for Goofy as a black film goes like this. Max is coded as a hip hop kid. Even if you look at the wardrobe of the kids at his high school, Max's jeans are baggier.
Yes.
Like so you know, 1995 baggy equals hip hop. So that's one argument. The second argument is that as a teenage black boy, the principal of the school actually makes the kind of statements that unfortunately many of us heard authority figures make as we entered into black teenage years, where he basically says, you know, this kid is, quote, and this is a quote, dressed like a gang member.
Yeah, they do say that.
And you know, there are several comments throughout that if Max doesn't get himself together, he's going to go to jail. So, you know, unlike other teenagers, including his friend, who's voiced by Pauly Shore, who's coded as a white surfer dude, and he just sort of gets into hijinks, there is a plot line that Max is headed for trouble.
Yeah.
And people have read that as him being coded as black. There's the whole thing with Powerline. You kind of joked about it, but that father-son theme, there's actually a lot of father-son. Like, you can actually count how many times Goofy says, I want to do fill in the blank with you like my father did with me.
Yes, he's always talking about representing the past.
Right, so there's this whole theme of fatherhood that is sort of a theme that you see a lot in black cultural products. And that's really the whole argument. But in my mind, the most important thing about the Goofy movie in this conversation is that it comes out in 1995, and The Proud Family doesn't come out until 2001.
Right.
Static Shock comes out, I think, about that time too. So really what you have is, this is another example of, in my mind, the pickings were so slim for black kids to see themselves. So that in a lot of ways, you know, you just grab at stuff. You think about somebody like, you know, I don't know, Jazz and the Transformers.
Yeah.
Who's voiced by
Scatman
Crothers, or Panthro in the Thundercats, who's voiced by Earl Hyman, famously who plays the grandfather in the Cosby Show, and how black kids, and specifically black nerds, have gravitated towards certain characters.
Mm-hmm.
And we say, oh, well, these characters are black.
We kind of make them our own. Right.
Because we didn't have actual representation.
Right.
So that, I don't think this is a black film. Frankly, when you read and God knows, I read way more about the Goofy movie than I ever planned on reading. Like, I was sitting reading a Vanity Fair article on the Goofy movie, and I was like, this is my life now. I read Vanity Fair articles about the Goofy movie. Because it is this great story, how the Goofy movie kind of became this cult classic, and it really was almost this afterthought. And when people talk about, you mentioned it, the classic Disney period with Aladdin and the Little Mermaid, and apparently they had a contest a few years ago about your favorite Disney movie. And the Goofy movie showed up on all of these people's lists.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it has become sort of this cult classic. And furthermore, again, black kids of a certain age took this in as their own.
Right.
So that, well, I don't think it's a black movie. 1995. I was an adult. Like the Goofy movie didn't leave an imprint on my life. I don't think it's black, but I'll allow it. I'll allow it.
It definitely left an impact on my life, and I tried to not let this be my guide, but I know that my daughter was a huge fan of this film.
Okay.
Right. She was a huge
fan. She would have been the right age.
Right. She was right in there, and and I mean, she was like a little young, but she still watched it. She watched Disney stuff, and she looked at it, and she found it in later years as she got older, and she enjoyed it. She liked it, and so I tried to not let that influence me. That and Tevin Campbell influenced me enough to choose the film, but I tried to not let that influence me as I was watching the film. And it's funny how you pointed out about him Max and his clothes being coded as black and everything like that. And I definitely see it when you say that. But honestly, when I was watching it, in my mind, because everybody else was so white around them, that I saw him as the white kid that wears baggy stuff, that tries to sport that style. You know what I mean?
Hey, that's not my argument. That's what the kids argue. Okay. That's what our younger blurred brethren and sisterin argue.
And I can see them making that argument, just like you said. You're grasping for whatever. You're grasping for something. You know what I mean? So I can see that them making that argument. And the other thing that I took from Goofy, wondering, concerned about him becoming like a thug or a gang member and everything like that. It almost, because of knowing what he was accused, like the boy dressed up in Powerline at his
school assembly.
At school assembly.
Yeah.
And so he disrupted. He basically pulled a Bart Simpson at his school assembly. Right, he pulled a prank. And for that to be the launch pad to like, oh my God, he's going down the way of thuggery and criminalness, to me sounded so 1950s that I didn't even see any kind of like coded coded message to be pulled from there. I certainly see it now that you pointed out, but I just didn't.
Yeah.
And I think it's also because when I look at Goofy, I do see those 40s and 50s cartoons. So he sounded like he is right out of those cartoons with his mindset.
Yeah, I do think if you're a 12 or 13-year-old black boy or black girl, and we talk about them being over scrutinized and criminalized so early, like I can see how that could touch a nerve.
Mm-hmm.
If you caught that, because you're thinking 11 and 12-year-olds are watching that. which is that moment. Which is that moment where black kids are suddenly in detention all the time, and everything that we talk about. So that argument actually spoke to me more than any of the rest of it. Like all that power line stuff and the clothes. But when the principal said you're dressed like a gang member, and he called up Goofy and said, if you don't get a hold of him, he's going to end up in a gang. That is the part where I said, yeah, I can see how a 12-year-old black kid would immediately say, oh, this speaks to me.
Yeah, right, I can see that as too. B-Rock79 hit us up on YouTube, let us know that the lead animator on the film, Bruce Smith, was in fact a black person.
Which is worth mentioning. Yeah, worth mentioning.
Especially
I was about to
go ahead.
I was about to talk about the black involvement in this as well.
Go ahead. Please do.
Well, besides Bruce Smith, I mean, you talked about it. Like even the decision to bring in Bobby Brown,
and
then when that didn't work out, to then pivot to Tevin Campbell. Like there's something going on there.
That's true. It's that you can't afford Bobby Brown. That's what's going on there. So
well, but instead of Bobby Brown, you get, I don't know, one of the new kids on the block. Or one of those kids on that Disney clone farm that they have in the swamp where they get all those kids. Like there was a cylinder somewhere in the basement of Disney World where they could have pulled a kid out. Like Justin Timberlake was probably like 14. But they went and got Tevin Campbell.
They went and got Tevin Campbell, certainly a bigger star. And who actually, I like the song.
Hey, it's a catchy song.
I was grooving with the song.
It's a catchy song.
I remember, and actually, I had forgotten about the song until listening to our social media maestro, Toya Haynes. Her podcast, the first time I heard, she did an episode talking about the first time she heard Tevin Campbell, and one of the things she speaks about is, falling in love with Tevin Campbell all over again because of his depiction of Powerline in a Goofy movie.
Yeah.
So
I'm telling you, it's like that Brandy Cinderella. Like there's a certain part of, and I love the little blurred. I love the young blurred. I love them so much. Like I love their culture. Like I love they have their own thing, and it's like that Brandy Cinderella. Like this is a touchstone.
It is.
It's a touchstone. So
I apologize to you, Vince, for making, and to the nation, for making you watch a film that is hands down. It's not a black film. Could you make the argument? Sure. But if you wanted to say that our argument is stretching it a bit, you want to say that we're playing Plastic Man with this argument, we got no defense. Well, I have no defense. I have absolutely no defense.
Because you chose it. This is your movie.
This was my movie. I chose this movie for this week. And I will say that I recommend you watch the Goofy movie because I do think it is a good movie. And I do think that it is worth revisiting if you haven't watched it with your young one, or if you got like a child or a grandchild, introduce them to a Goofy movie. It has the music and the messages that are timeless that I think they will appreciate. It's not a black film. I don't mean that you shouldn't watch it.
Look, I'm going to defer to, again, the millennials. I'm going to defer to the millennials. They have claimed this as a black film. I'm not going to fight them on it. Again, I can kind of squint my eyes and see their argument. So I'm like, all right. And again, I think the subject of black representation in animation is a really layered and ongoing one.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mentioned the Proud Family, which comes out a few years after that, and I think the Proud Family is about to come back actually,
Yeah.
and there have been some really good conversations about, even in a show that is all about representation, issues of colorism in the Proud Family.
Mm-hmm.
We've mentioned this before. We talked about Frozone's wife in
Oh
the
yeah.
Incredibles film, and just sort of the
The
absence
voiceless
of black
black.
bodies.
I mean, the
You
no
know,
body black, that black voice. Right.
right? It's almost a running joke in my house. Like, I love black women, and I love my daughter, and I love Anika Noni Rose so much that I can't really think about the Princess and the Frog for too long. And the fact that you only see her as a black person for about 20 minutes before it's just a frog.
Mm.
And what does that mean? And, we've talked about that. We talked, the Will Smith movie that just came out last year, where it's the same thing, where he turns into a bird almost immediately. People are already preemptively talking about the first Pixar film with black leads next
Soul.
year, Soul, but it looks like how long is he going to be black? So I think you could argue that the Goofy movie is part of this conversation. Again, 1995, actual representation of blackness is so scarce that black kids had to embrace this.
Yeah.
And then we could argue about how far we have or have not come. Go back to something we talked about last week. Part of the reason that I love Matthew Cherry and Hair Love so much is that it's so beautifully black.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's so beautifully black. You have these beautiful black characters the entire short. Not for nothing, the mother is darker than the father,
Right.
which means something when we talk about this kind of thing. So I don't have a problem with the Goofy movie being part of that conversation.
Well, thank you, Vince.
How you like that, Lynn? How you like that?
You let me off the hook. I really appreciate
Uh-huh. You remember that next time you ask me about some movie you don't think is black. Uh-huh. How you like that, Lynn? I was thoughtful.
You were, Vince. I'm going to end this show on hopefully a happy note. I don't know. Would you consider yourself a fan of Walt Disney? And if so, do you have a favorite Disney character?
Wait, you mean like Walt Disney, the Nazi who reported people in the during the Red Scare, who was reporting on people? That Walt Disney, the anti-Semite Walt Disney, or do you mean like Walt Disney and the stuff that comes out of Disney? You mean the man, or you mean the company?
I meant the company.
Oh yeah, I like Disney stuff. You better not let Walt Disney know that you were going to a communist meeting now.
Do you have a favorite Walt Disney character?
Oh, Uncle Scrooge.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, nothing obscure with me. Like, I'm exactly who the old nerd would like with Disney.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. I'm a Carl Barks Uncle Scrooge dude.
Okay, all right.
Like, I don't go as deep as you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm Uncle Scrooge. Yeah, I'm an Uncle Scrooge guy.
All right. Well, yet another thing that we have in common.
Yeah.
I'm an Uncle Scrooge guy as well.
You know, the Carl Barks, Don Rosa stuff. Love the Don Rosa stuff. I actually was exposed to the Don Rosa stuff before I got to the Carl Barks stuff. So I came at it backwards. Yeah, I came at it backwards.
Oh, okay. All right. That's cool. All right.
And you want to talk about your beloved Scrooge for a moment?
Oh man, I love Uncle Scrooge. I love Uncle Scrooge, and the Carl Barks stories are fantastic, ladies and gentlemen. If you're a fan of DuckTales, the animated show from the 90s that has been rebooted quite successfully, I would
I was
say.
about to say, are you watching the new DuckTales?
It's a very, very good. It is a hoot. I am really enjoying it. They've kind of like redesigned the characters and rewrote them with a more of a 21st century frame of mind, and but they still feel very true to form. I really, really enjoyed the DuckTales reboot. And if you
And there was a
enjoy,
Powerline reference last season, right?
that's right. That's right. Because it's all one universe, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
So if you enjoy that series, then you will enjoy the Carl Barks stories of Uncle Scrooge, a character that he created and made famous. So much so that Uncle Scrooge overseas is the most famous Disney character. And check out all of those stories. I'm not going to lie. There's some sketchy stuff in some of those stories, okay? I'm not going to lie. I'll let you find
absolutely.
it out for yourself. But on the most part, it's some good reading, good adventure comedy. It's fantastic.
And if you like the Carl Barks, his real spiritual successor, Don Rosa, has been doing very good work.
Yeah.
With
fantastic.
Uncle Scrooge and the Ducks over the past. Go ahead.
I was going to say, if you really like Uncle Scrooge, as I watch our numbers dwindle, as people like, they talking about Uncle Scrooge. I'm gone. I am out of here. I got too much on my.
Right.
Go catch up on life. I don't need this. If you really like Carl Barks, and to Vince's point, you want to follow Don Rosa, there's a book that you can buy, The Life and Times of Scrooge McDuck by Don Rosa, where he basically creates the origin of Uncle Scrooge from the quote-unquote historical documents of Carl Barks' stories. It is some great reading and illustration. You will not put that book down.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree.
You'll even see the secret origin of Donald Duck.
Yeah, in there you go. That's right. Donald Duck is involved. Can't forget him.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, before we tell you what we're going to be reviewing next week, I invite you all to follow us on all the social medias at Micheaux Mission. That is on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Join the Facebook group, The Micheaux Mission, where we have a lot of fun talking to our missionaries. And email us with all your thoughts and concerns to micheauxmission@gmail.com. The Micheaux Mission is available as a podcast on micheauxmission.com, as well as any place and every place that you find podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, you name it. Wherever you find podcasts, you'll find the Micheaux Mission podcast. Proud member of the Podglomerate Curated Podcast Network. Curated podcasts just for your earbuds. Go to thepodglomerate.com. Check out all they have to offer for you today. The Micheaux Mission is also available as a radio show every Saturday afternoon at 1 p.m. on WPPM 106.5 FM Philly Camp Power Media here in the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection. And you can wake up with the Micheaux Mission every Monday morning at 9 a.m. on WKDU 91.7 FM, the voice of Drexel University. All right. And if you want to help us, give us a 5-star rating and review wherever you find the show. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow the show. Subscribe to us on youtube.com/Micheaux Mission, and go to our website and hit swag and check out some of the cool t-shirts that we have for your buying pleasure. That helps keep the show free. We really appreciate it. Next week on the Micheaux Mission is Vince's turn to choose what selection we'll be watching. What you got, buddy?
We're going to do the extremely goofy movie. No, I'm joking. I'm still in my noir bag.
Oh, cool. Good.
I'm still in my noir bag. I mentioned it last week. We've mentioned it before, but we're going to go ahead and dive into it. Jeff Goldblum, Clarence Williams III, Lawrence Fishburne, Bill Duke's sophomore directorial effort, 187 on an undercover cop.
Woo!
We're going to do deep cover.
Deep.
We're going to do deep cover.
Oh man.
Deep cover, the film whose soundtrack introduced us to Snoop Dogg.
How about that?
Remember, everybody on Fox News was upset about a cop killer by Ice-T and his rock band that not one black person I knew listened to.
No.
Meanwhile, Snoop was singing "It's 187 on an Undercover Cop."
Yeah, and you don't stop.
Yeah, we're gonna do deep cover.
I can't wait. Next week, ladies and gentlemen, on the Micheaux Mission. Until then, he's Vince, I'm Len, and in parting we say,
we'll see you when it's time to meet again.
Keep your mask up, everybody. Peace.